And the president of the Zionist Federation has just returned to Australia from Israel after meeting the President Herzog, plus families of hostages both freed, as well as those who are still in captivity. So he presented Isaac Herzog with a letter signed by thousands of Australians affirming solidarity with Israel. Jeremy Leibler also went to the now abandoned kibbutz that was attacked on October 7, capturing footage from inside and outside those destroyed homes. And he joins us live from Melbourne now. Good to see you. Thanks for your time. Look, there is so much support for Israel here, despite, protests and what have you. However, there is this warning for Jewish folks in Israel not to come out here or to reconsider their travel. I mean, how surprised are you about that?
Thanks for having me on the show. I think that the warning that came from Israel yesterday in relation to Israelis travelling to Australia, I think reflects how the international community have seen the response in Australia to the attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October. I don't believe it's reflective of the overwhelming majority of Australians, but when we look at the rhetoric on the streets during these pro-Palestinian rallies where, there have been rhetoric like gas the Jews and from the rivers to the sea, Palestine will be free. Unfortunately, this sort of behaviour reflects very, very badly on the whole country. And it does reflect the mood within the Jewish community where there is a high sense of fear and uncertainty.
Right. So was that brought up to you with you on your travels?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the most startling experiences that I had was in many of our meetings, both from senior politicians like the President or former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, to meeting the families of hostages or the many evacuees from the South. They turned to us and they said to us, how are you doing in Australia? How is the Jewish community in Australia? We've seen such terrible things on the news. And to be honest, I felt shame. I felt shame as an Australian, as a Jewish Australian, that the very people that I went to give some strength and support to, who have endured unbearable tragedy, were caused to turn around to me and ask me how we and the rest of the Jewish community in Australia are.
Do you have concerns about a turning tide of global support for Israel, given the response now, the war, the tensions that have resumed, the war that's resumed in Gaza, and the death toll now, as we just reported, climbing to almost 16,000? Do you have a concern that opinion will move against Israel?
It's interesting, when you're there on the ground and you meet with the people, you get a very, very different perspective. And I think what people don't appreciate is the inhabitants of these kibbutzim down south who have been evacuated. There are now almost 250,000 displaced Israelis from the south and also from the north who have been evacuated or left their homes out of fear of an attack, a similar attack from Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran. And these people, we met with the residents of kibbutzim from down south. These are almost entirely far left-wing, peace-loving, secular Israelis. On the 7th of October, one of these kibbutzim told us it was Kite Day. It was a Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah when the attack happened. And every year they release kites with messages of peace and love that are sent to the residents of Gaza. And so when you meet the people, there is this enormous sense of, sadness, despair, but also betrayal. Betrayal for the lives and the values that they've lived for the last 20 years on these border communities. So in terms of support from the rest of the world, I mean, Israel is a very self-critical country. Israelis are better at criticising themselves than anybody else. But there is absolute unanimity that, notwithstanding the high price that Israel will have to pay and innocent Palestinian civilians will need to pay, there is no alternative but to remove Hamas from operating in the Strip. And I think Israelis will take a very long time for them to forgive Hamas, not just for the attacks of the 7th of October, but for forcing Israel to take the steps to remove Hamas, which has impacted so many innocent Palestinians who are being used as human shields.
Jeremy, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your time, though. Thank you. Well, the pressure is